Wasn't expecting to go in that direction.
They got me.
We got an email.
It's great to be back in Worcester and Wayne County. Good morning. People first, what a novel idea. Who would think we'd have to write that down? It's not the message we get from Washington today. It's anything but. A lot of self-dealing, a lot of tax cuts for very wealthy and corporations, where many middle-class families are struggling with poor wages and low living standards. I'm running for Congress because the country that I love, the country that absolutely made me who I am today, is barely recognizable at this point. I grew up in a working-class family in Youngstown. I climbed the economic ladder out of Youngstown, and that ladder, it's not behind me anymore. The kids behind me can't follow me up that ladder. I've lived in my district here in the 16th for decades. I've had 30 years of healthcare experience working with every hospital throughout the 16th Congressional District, and we are back in a healthcare crisis yet again. I know my district forward and backwards. It's a pleasure of living in your community that you are trying to represent, that every issue and every county or community I've already been aware of and part of from the beginning. I have real-world experience needed to address these big problems. Protecting the Affordable Care Act, or Obamacare, and the Medicaid expansion is especially important to Wayne County. Your fantastic economic growth model is very dependent on Worcester Hospital staying healthy and afloat. Worcester Hospital, prior to the Affordable Care Act, was doing $400,000 a month in charitable care. They cannot go back to that and remain functional. They've increased your services exponentially since the Affordable Care Act has been in place. And it's fantastic for you, your community, your economy, and your jobs. And it's just as important that we maintain that protection for thousands of residents of Wayne County, so Worcester Hospital can stay healthy and your community can stay healthy. And we can put more workers out there for the Wayne businesses that need and demand more workers. It's a very large part of our economic model in this county. We also need to hold pharmaceutical prices accountable. We have been paying for everyone's research and development for years and years and years. Price gouging is common with generic drugs. People buying a patent, bringing it into the United States and quadrupling the price, and we pay for that. And there's no limits. There's no, think of your PUCO. Prevents your electrical bill from going sky high year after year because they cap the growth. We could put those same kind of regulations in place for drug prices so that you can't have a 30, 40, 3,000% increase year to year. Right now, there's nothing governing it whatsoever. Opposing the GOP tax bill, it's very unfortunate that everyone at the table that wrote that bill personally made money off the GOP tax bill. They each put money in their pockets, and the working class families in Ohio have not seen wage increases. We've seen increases in the cost of living for sure, but not any wage growth that is above the cost of living. So many people are looking around going, where's all this growth? It's not here in Ohio. We have not even recovered from our 2001 recession. Our median wages are lower than they were in 2001. Every one of these problems come from a policy choice that's been made both at a state and a federal level. We can choose policies that will change that outcome. We need infrastructure investment in the Midwest to change us back into the manufacturing hub that we were. If we can find ways to create cheaper electricity, think solar fields, wind farms, hydroelectric dams in West Virginia on the rivers, that cheaper electricity will pull manufacturing back into this area. And that's the kind of infrastructure growth that was promised to the people in 2016 that we've had absolutely none of since. The point that matters the most to me is that this is my community. I have been here for 20 years. My opponent moved in from San Francisco a year ago. I am in your community to run for, I am running for Congress because I'm a member of your community. He is in your community to run for Congress. And that's a vast difference. If he wanted to run for Congress in San Francisco, he lived in Nancy Pelosi's district. So that would have been perfect. He could have run against Nancy Pelosi. The issues that are certainly important to me are healthcare, living standards and the living wage in the United States, and competitiveness. We fight against globalization so much, but we need to focus on our competitiveness as a nation and educating our workforce and keeping our workforce healthy is incredibly important to our growth as a country and to compete on a global economy. And we absolutely must compete at that level. We cannot allow the Affordable Care Act or Obamacare to be repealed. It absolutely must be protected. You will see many people from the Republican Party saying now that they support it because the vast majority of Ohioans support it. I'm sorry, if you voted to repeal it 60 times, I am not going to trust you with my vote to maintain that standard. They're going to get into office and they're going to repeal it, and that's going to be a big deficit to this county and this community. There are clear differences, and we all have a choice to make. The better.
I legally qualify to vote as a registered voter in Wayne County. My name's Adam Van Ho. For those of you I saw last night, we did day 3 of our bar rooms and blue jeans tour. We were out talking to people. My opponent had a fancy country club reception, so I thought I would do the exact opposite and go talk to people in a little bit more of an environment that I feel comfortable in. And having grown up in Ohio, I've lived in Ohio my whole life. My family's actually been here in farming Ohio since the 1800s. We went to a couple little bars, and we didn't just talk to the people that came in to talk to me. We also talked to the people who were sitting at the bars that really weren't active in the political process, about the issues that were facing their lives, about their challenges, about the steel worker who's sitting there going, I'm not sure I'm going to have a job next week. I'm not sure which shift I'll be working next week. We're talking to some folks in Akron the other day about what they were afraid of, what their fear was, and they just said, it just doesn't seem like the Ohio we grew up in, and it's not. And last night I was talking to a woman who works in the agribusiness about what they're looking at, the troubles facing Ohio's farms, and it's scary. And I talked last night here in this room about the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over and over again, expecting a different result. And insanity is exactly what the Republicans are asking Ohioans to do. For election after election after election, they promised to fix the problems facing Ohio's families, from job growth, health care, things like that. And Ohioans kept sending them back to Columbus, and nothing got done. It's time to break the insanity. It is time for Ohioans to stand up and say, we want to protect health care. We want to make sure that our neighbors are able to go to the hospital and not be afraid of losing their homes or their farms. We want to make sure that our kids are going to good schools and not graduating with $100,000, $200,000 in debt. We want to make sure that senior citizens can be able to get prescription drugs at a reasonable price and not have to go on Medicare, not have to sell their homes, not have to go through their life savings. These are the issues that are important to Ohioans when you're talking to them, whether it's in this room, whether it's in the bar across the street, or whether it's in a union hall over in Kansas.